It gives me great pleasure to welcome today on Uncensored Voices Yasemin Acar. Yasemin is a Berlin-based human rights activist focused on refugee rights, advocacy, and anti-Muslim racism. She has collaborated with numerous organizations over the years to support refugees settling in Germany and has significant experience with youth work. During the Ukraine invasion, Yasemin mobilized 15,000 volunteers and founded Berlin Arrival Support, advising the Berlin Senate on refugee issues while calling out disparities in treatment. A longtime advocate for Palestine, she's now an active organizer in the Palestine Solidarity Movement, and she's also a member of the Freedom Flotilla Coalition. Yasemin, good afternoon, and welcome to Uncensored Voices.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Right. I would like to start talking a little bit about yourself. When did you decide that your future was activism? Because it's not an easy road to take.
I think there was no specific time where I've decided to speak up. Being a migrant in Germany has taught me very early on that something is not what it's supposed to be or how it's supposed to be. And experiencing daily racism in school, outside, just taught me that there are injustices and has shown me that there are differences, but that these differences shouldn't, they shouldn't be problematic in our society. They should bring us together. And when I was a teenager, I've done some projects, and then I realized that when the first waves of refugees came, I decided I want to do something about it, and I started working with different organizations, and basically I became active in that sense.
So I know that Palestine and the genocide going on now in Gaza is not the only cause that you have been advocating for. What is different about Palestine, and what's different basically in the way that the German police or the state treats people who are advocating for Palestine?
I mean, yes, for me, the core of everything is the human. It doesn't matter where someone is from, what they believe in, or how they look, or their sexual orientation. A human is a human, and that is what we should focus on. Just recently, before the genocide began, I was, as you mentioned earlier, I founded Berlin Arrival Support for Ukrainians basically arriving in Germany when the invasion of Ukraine started. During that time, the German media and the German state, they would praise me for my activism. And when I started speaking up about Palestine, this changed very fast.
I mean, it was okay then to have a Ukrainian flag on your balcony or have a Ukrainian flag on your car. That would be fine. I see it in Cyprus as well now. But having a Palestinian flag is a different matter, isn't it?
Of course. Because we have to also think about the fact that Palestine is in the Middle East and it's a predominantly Muslim country, and how Muslims are perceived in the Western world, we all know. And during genocide, like now, since the genocide happened, it is becoming more clear and clearer for us. And if you look back at 9/11, there has been campaigns where they spent millions and billions into these hate campaigns in the media against Muslim people, making them look like terrorists. If you open up Netflix today or Hollywood movies, you basically see how they portray Muslims. They're dehumanizing them for years. And that is why it was okay to speak up for Ukraine, but it's not okay to speak up for Palestine, even though what's happening in Palestine is so severe. It cannot be compared to any other war or what's going on in the world at the moment.
So just to elaborate a little bit on that question, so obviously the German police has come down on the protesters a lot harder on what it did. I mean, looking at what Germany is doing to people who are protesting, there are human rights violations just by what they are doing to the protesters, right?
Right. Well, these, you know, there's a lot of things happening. The way the police treats protesters is uncalled for and inhumane. It's you know, they violate human rights. They violate so many other constitutional rights, and we've been seeing that since day one, since 7th of October. The crackdown on the Palestine movement is in Germany, especially in Germany. You know, considering the historical sorry, the responsibility, the historical responsibility Germany has, looking at the way this country is treating the Palestine movement and Palestinians, Arabs, Muslim, is insane. You know, we have seen minors being arrested. We have seen elderly people being beaten up. We have seen house raids, several house raids. We have seen the defunding of organizations just because they're anti-Zionist organizations that speak up about it. We have seen scholars being canceled. We have seen artists being canceled. We have seen people losing their jobs, smear campaigns in the German media. So there is an attack from all angles, you know, towards people that are speaking up for human rights, you know, and speak about the violations of international law.
Mm-hmm. So at the beginning of November, the Bundestag passed a resolution called "Never Again is Now," if I'm not mistaken. What does it entail, and what does it mean actually for pro-Palestinian activists?
Well, it means a lot. It means a lot of negative things, you know. Never Again Now is basically saying they're protecting, preserving, and strengthening Jewish life in Germany, which was agreed upon by the coalition consisting SPD, FDP, CDU, and the Green Party, which these parties claim to be liberal and, you know, like, they're very far right, but of course they're trying to hide this. But we're seeing how they're behaving, and the laws, and, you know, and especially with this resolution, how they really feel and how they really think, and what they're aiming to do. And, you know, this resolution was worked on in secret, meaning behind closed doors. And those drawing it up were a small circle of parliamentarians who did not disclose any information to the public. And if we think of resolutions, you know, the resolutions are usually drafted with the help of civil society organizations and groups concerned with the topic at hand. And such groups are normally invited to speak in parliament to share opinions and insights. But in this case of this anti-Semitism resolution, no such measures were taken. And, you know, speaking of the Green Party, Germany's foreign minister Annalena Baerbock is from the Green Party, the same Green Party that advocated for stop of weapons to conflict zones during the elections. This very same party has been fueling the genocide for 14 months now. So as you see, Germany is full of double standards, and perhaps is built on double standards. So it's no surprise that these parties would agree on a resolution that is purely anti-Palestinian and anti-Muslim racism at its core. You know, and I'm asking myself, how can a country that has caused the killings of millions of Jewish people now oppress another people to correct history? As far as I'm concerned, you know, history cannot be corrected or reversed, and we should not try to. What needs to happen is accountability. History needs accountability to not repeat again. Since Germany is saying never again, right?
Yeah.
So how can a country claim to protect Jews by killing thousands of Palestinians and oppressing Palestinians and Muslims within the border of Germany? So, you know, they're not protecting anything. Instead, they are risking Jews by making it look like that every Jew has to associate themselves with Israel. That, in fact,
that's anti-Semitic. That to me is in essence anti-Semitic, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, telling Jews how to think, feel, and live is very anti-Semitic, especially coming from Germany. And while this resolution is not legally binding, it has a strong political impact. Like, it violates freedom of speech and many other constitutional rights. If Germany is really about protecting, preserving, and strengthening Jewish life, maybe they should consider financial support for Holocaust survivors, many of whom live in poverty. All of this is um, not only concerning, but it violates human rights and freedom of speech. And we're seeing this more and more because lately, since the resolution was agreed on, demonstrations have been canceled. And I think this has a lot to do with this resolution.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to my next question. I have heard time and time and time again that Germany is reacting this way exactly because it's feeling guilty because of the Holocaust. And it doesn't really make sense to me. Why would you, as you said, why would you allow another Holocaust to happen if you actually are feeling guilty about what you did? Does that mean that now suddenly the life of a Palestinian is worth less than the life of an Israeli person or a Jewish person?
Yeah, guilt. You know, German guilt washing in times of genocide sounds very German. You know, the world has witnessed and is continuing to witness the full extent of Germany's repression of pro-Palestinian activism. We know, I mean, me personally, and I think everyone knows this, it's not about historic guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Because, does German guilt mean allowing Israel to drop 85,000 tons of bombs on a 360 square kilometer in only 1 year? Just imagine the amount of bombs on such a small land in 1 year. Does guilt mean to let children, women, men starve to death, or to kill up to 200,000 civilians, leave 15,000 children without parents, completely unaccompanied, bomb schools, hospital, mosques, use chemical weapons, burn people alive, or to profit from settler colonialism in the West Bank? I mean, the list goes on, and these are only a few that I mentioned. So
Yeah.
in this case, really, guilt is a luxury of the white man. In Germany, there has been, if we look at Germany, there has been a relentless campaign to harass, scare, intimidate, silence, fire, dismiss, and defund people, as I mentioned before, who just dare to go against Zionists, or to speak up about, Israel. These people are being openly repressed, and to justify all of this, they agree on a racist resolution that we just spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
And central to this harsh persecution is a nationwide act of guilt washing, using Germany's historical responsibility for the Holocaust as a facade to justify authoritarian state policies. And as far as I'm concerned, this approach does not genuinely prioritize the safety of Jewish communities. Because if it did, it wouldn't promote narratives that dangerously heighten societal tensions at a time when hate crimes against Arabs, Jews, Muslims are on the rise. Instead, Germany wants, it seems like that Germany only wants division and not community.
Yeah. Obviously, to serve their own interests.
Of course, they have political
Yeah.
interests in all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. So we saw within that context that you've just described what Germany did to Yanis Varoufakis and Ghassan Abu Sita when they tried to enter the country to participate in a panel during the Palestine Congress, organized by Palestine solidarity groups and Jewish Voice for Peace. How far do you think they will take this? I mean, trying to censor people, because we've seen it on all levels. I know that both of them were not even allowed. I know from Yanis Varoufakis that he wasn't even allowed to record his speech or to participate online. He wasn't even allowed to participate online, and he was not allowed to record his speech at all or send it. So that is taking censorship to another level. How far do you think they will take this?
I mean, this question is, this question is a hard one, considering the fact they have crossed all red lines when it comes to democracy.
Yeah.
We are seeing that democracy is just a facade, that democracy only serves those if it aligns with their interests. So really, like, if these things that are happening in Germany would happen in Iran or in other countries that that Germany and the West deems to be fascist and regimes.
In Russia?
Or in Russia, yes.
Yeah.
They would point their fingers. Trust me, all papers would write about it. Everyone would speak about it. But this is now happening in exactly those countries that smear other countries for their actions. Like, not smear, but like that judge, who judge other countries. So it's always easier to point your fingers at others instead of really looking what's happening within your borders. And this is what we are seeing more and more. How far will they take it? I don't know. Can you take it any further than you have already? Not allowing a doctor to enter Germany to speak about what's happening in Gaza because he was in Gaza, or just canceling people, scholars who are here to have a dialogue, and talk about what's going on, while Germany claims that we are not looking for a dialogue. I mean, how can we have a dialogue if you are not allowing people to come inside of Germany? If you are, like the crackdown on the Congress, like it was very violent. I was there, I was there the same day when all of these things happened. They locked us in a room, they shut down everything, electricity. Like these people are, up to no good, whereas these people are there to speak truth to power. So if that is not allowed in democracy, freedom of speech, where is democracy? One of the main main pillars of democracy is freedom of speech. This is what they highly speak of. This is what Germany prides itself on. So where is the freedom of speech that they're talking about? Where is the democracy that they're speaking about?
I'm hoping that they won't cross any more red lines.
I think that one is already done, because all of these red lines have been crossed when they allowed Israel to commit a genocide. When they showed us that committing a genocide is okay. When they have shown us that it's okay to watch a live stream genocide and then to lie about the weapon delivery in front of the ICJ. The day Germany was in front of the ICJ, I was in the same room. I was in The Hague. I was sitting in the same room and listening to them denying the fact that the weapons were not, they were basically denying the fact about the weapon delivery. To sit there and to listen to them, it was surreal, and you feel nothing but rage and disgust.
Yeah. So we're going to end this with two more questions. What would you say to people? Having said that about what is going on and all the red lines that have been crossed, and a lot of people feel disheartened and disappointed that what they're doing is not working, that the governments aren't listening to us. Because if you think that in most of these countries that we've been describing, there is a disconnect between the governments and the people, because this is not what the people are saying. If you speak to most people on the ground, they will say that they do not agree with what is going on at this moment in Palestine, in Gaza. A great majority of them don't disagree with what is going on, but there is a great disconnect between the people and the government. So what would you say to people that simply say that protests don't work and that we don't have the power to change things?
Great question. to those who say protests don't work or that we lack the power to create change, I would ask them to consider history. Nearly every major shift in rights, justice, and equality has been fueled by people coming together and demanding change, whether it was the civil rights movement or the fall of apartheid. Protests are not just about immediate results. They're about visibility, shifting public consciousness, and building pressure to eventually force those in power to act. It might not always create instant change, but they're crucial. But they're a crucial part of long-term struggles. Protests inspire others, interrupt comfort zones, and remind those in power that their actions are being watched. In this case, letting them know, yes, we know, we are watching a genocide live streamed. For example, the media worldwide thinks they own the narrative, but when you look at the streets, despite all of the propaganda, despite all of the repressions, we see they do not own the narrative. And this is all, by protesting. I mean, all the millions and billions the media wastes could actually save lives if they would use it correctly. So, change may feel slow, but it's built brick by brick through collective action. By dismissing the power of protest, we risk giving up the very tools that have brought us the freedoms and rights we have today. And, when I say it, I say this very carefully because it feels like what we have obtained through collectively standing up, like freedom and the rights we have today, it feels like we have to fight for them all over again.
Yeah. So would you say that this is I always ask all my interviewees this last question. Would you say that this is what we're witnessing right now is the fall of an empire?
Well, I would wish so.
That's normally the answer I get.
Right. History shows that great powers often weaken under a combination of internal contradictions and external pressures, and the inability to adapt to shifting dynamics. And we see this, we see this for like months and months now. What I think is the global resistance against colonialism, imperialism, and exploitation is challenging established power structures. And protests, uprisings, and demands for justice are shaking foundations of systems that have relied on oppression to maintain their dominance. So while it might not be the outright fall of an empire, it certainly feels like a moment where the cracks of hegemonic systems are widening. So Palestine has really shown the world a world without masks, basically. And to finish all of what I was saying earlier, empires don't collapse overnight. We know that. They erode over time. What we are witnessing could be the beginning or the acceleration of that process for certain global powers. But the real question is, what will rise in its place, and will it bring justice to those who we are fighting for? Will it free Palestine, Congo, Sudan, Yemen, Haiti, Cuba, the Uyghurs, and the Kurdish population, for example?
Thank you for that last comment, because it's very important to remember that in our fight for Palestine, we must include all the other territories, all the other peoples, all the other countries that at this moment in time are oppressed by the colonialist, imperialist project that is going on at this moment in time. Because it goes without saying that Palestine is not the only territory that is going through this. It might be going through the hardest time because of Israel dropping bombs and killing people constantly, but it's not the only country going through the same strife.
No.
We know what a colonial project looks like and what a white supremacist colonial project looks like. They walk in, cause disruption, and take what are the country's natural resources. And that, unfortunately, is what it comes down to. That is what it's all about.
Absolutely. And that is why we have to continue our protests. We have to continue to disrupt. We have to continue to take part in direct actions. We have to continue to hurt capital, because this is the only way I feel like they will listen. We have to abolish white supremacy. I think that is where we have to start.
Yeah. Yasemin, thank you so much for this conversation that you had with me today, and for sharing your thoughts with Uncensored Voices. And we just have to continue to keep our voices uncensored and keep talking about what we believe about, and fighting for a world where justice and equality for all is present, and not only for the elite and for some people. So
absolutely, 100% agree. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everything that you do.